you have the most important case of all the cases brought against Trump. And it's with a judge who's going to make sure it never sees the light of day. I mean, it's just, ain't that America for you and me? It's just, it is uneven. But again, I have faith in the judicial system. At the end of the day, everything does balance out. So I'm not here trashing the American judicial system. Sometimes stuff just happens. And here we have just a great irony. We're living through a case that a lot of people don't think should have ever been brought. And we're never going to hear a case that's actually central to Donald Trump's crimes, what I perceive to be his greatest crimes. And she's just burying it.
Yeah, and your faith in the legal system goes up against another phenomenon that we've all had to live with the last 10 years is that Donald Trump always gets away with it. And that's what so many Democrats and other Americans have been saying for such a long time, including yesterday. This ruling, in some ways, not a surprise. Donald Trump, one person said to me yesterday, won this case the moment that judge was assigned to it. She, of course, was his appointee, and she has done everything she can, every step of the way, to slow this thing down, to bring it to a halt. There were reporters assigned to that case who were sort of posting on Twitter X in recent days, like, this trial's supposed to start in 2 weeks, and there's obviously no sign it's going to. Yeah. And she didn't just postpone it, she did so indefinitely. And let's remember, if Donald Trump were to win election this November, he would control the Justice Department, a federal case. He could instruct his attorney general to make this one go away. So maybe this one will never, ever see the light of day. So, Lisa Rubin, let's get your analysis here, just as what we heard from this judge yesterday in this indefinite delay. Do you have any sense, is there even worth taking a haphazard guess as to when this trial will begin? Is there any chance it could happen before the election? And lastly, is there any recourse here for Jack Smith?
Let's start with, can this case be tried before the election? I think that ship has long since sailed. Yesterday was no surprise. I can't underscore how little of surprise it was. It was more surprising that Stormy Daniels got on the stand and said that she had sex with Donald Trump than it was that Aileen Cannon postponed her trial date. She has a number of motions that have even yet to be scheduled that are required under the Classified Information Procedures Act. She has a number of pending motions that have been fully briefed for months now, on which she has made no decision. I wouldn't venture a guess at when this case would be ready for trial, and I believe that's by design. I continue to be disappointed by Aileen Cannon and her execution of the role of federal jurist here.
So just to make a point here that's sort of in the background, Joe, Lisa Rubin says, I continue to be disappointed in this judge. We look at some of these decisions. They seem basic. What you don't see here on this broadcast is conspiracy theories. Oh, that Trump is pulling the strings based on no facts. You don't see here hair on fire. This is the way it went. And because of, as you pointed out, the justice system, it's not perfect, but this is the judge we got.
This is the judge we got. And guess what? I mean, nobody is alleging that the clerk of courts in the Southern District did anything wrong. You draw a judge, and that's the judge that comes up, and her number came up. And, this sometimes you see in stories, oh, you got the hanging judge, or, oh, you got this. It's what happens unless somebody has information that the Southern District, a clerk of court wanted to risk their career and their freedom by rigging this process, which I'm sure they did not. This is the judge.
Well, we have no basis.
There's a judge. Yeah, no, it didn't. That did not happen. I'm saying this just happens sometimes, and this is the judge we got. I do want to say, Willie, though, just to follow up on what Jonathan O'Meara said, if people say, oh, Jonathan O'Meara is being too political when he's talking about all the mistakes she's made, that's not from a center left or a left wing or a right wing point of view. You look at what the 11th Circuit said, the most conservative circuit in America. They excoriated her for an earlier ruling, excoriated her on appeal, just absolutely humiliating her. It's one of the reasons I thought that she would be a bit more careful, a bit more circumspect, play more down the center, play more by the rules than she has. But she has not. I mean, you look at what she's talking about regarding jury instructions. It's crazy. It's crazy. A 12-year-old that went with her mother to take a kid to court day, like as a lawyer or something, would have come up with a better ruling than she's come up with. It's bizarre. And I am sure that if that's appealed, now that there's time, the 11th Circuit will excoriate her again. I guess she's either ill-equipped, extraordinarily ill-equipped, or she just doesn't care what the world thinks of her. She's right now looking like everything she's doing to help Donald Trump.
Yeah, and totally unaffected, it appears, by that admonishment you described from the 11th Circuit. Also, Danny, layer into this, as Lisa said, we're talking about classified documents here. So there's certain procedures that have to be gone through, what can be shown in court, what is even admissible in court. She did set the earliest pretrial hearing on that for July 22nd, which gives you some sense. That's just sort of the beginning of things for late July. So where do you see this headed from here?
Her order sets out all these different dates, and there are justifications. The thing that strikes me is that normally when you're in federal court is where your cases move really quickly. And just in my experience, it's just my experience, normally the judge always has a trial date set. And they leave it sort of to the litigants. And it's always a trial date that is way sooner for the comfort of all the litigants. And they leave that burden on the parties to figure out, hey, if you want to make a joint application to move the date, you go ahead. But I'm setting this trial date. Maybe I'll move it someday 2 weeks out. That's been my experience in federal court. So to not have a trial date at all, I think, is a little unusual. This order, it can be criticized. There are justifications in it because of all these different motions that are pending. And yes, you have these complex issues. But Jack Smith has argued in court that these issues are not so complex that they require an inordinate delay. He said as much, that these documents can be managed. Yes, there are different tiers of classification, but this is something that can be managed. The challenge is for Jack Smith, there really aren't a lot of comebacks from this, not in the way of appeal. And there's been a lot of talk of trying to make her recuse herself. They're not there yet. They don't have it. They're just like another litigant who feels like the judge is against them, which is normally the defense side, if I can just say. Maybe I'm editorializing here. But yes, I sympathize with Jack Smith. Sometimes you feel like you draw a judge that just isn't deciding anything your way.
Lisa, give you the last word on this. Is she slow walking this, in your opinion?
I think she is, but I also think, based on some reporting from David Latt, that this is a judge who is overwhelmed and is second-guessing herself at every corner. She seems to be overwhelmed with anxiety about the import of the case. And so a combination of insecurity in your own decisions, the gravity of the case before you, and maybe also some inclination to slow walk where you don't have trust in yourself, that's a toxic brew. And we're all drinking it right now.
We're watching it play out. Lisa Rubin.